So thank you very much, Dr. Shinu and Aarti for giving that introduction. And I must first of all congratulate each one of you since you're a part of this campus for an amazing campus and the infrastructure, what you have it. It is my privilege to be here and I'll say have a discussion with you. This topic is something which you can always open in internet, chat GPT, Grow, Claude, whatever you're using, and you can get to know a lot more about it. But what I'm here to talk about is what I have been seeing in the industry, and I want to hear from you people. What is that you people are anticipating? What is that you people are seeing, and what is that you are expecting as the world progresses? Of course, I believe how many of you are freshers, fresh into have not worked previously? Anyone here? Raise your hand. Okay, and rest all are coming with some industry experience, right? So for the people who have come up with experience, and as Aarti mentioned, I have around 17 years of experience. Similar to the people, some of you who have worked, how have you seen this entire the job market or the culture evolving? And I just want to have an open discussion. See, I'm from a consulting background, and what the consultants do is they give gyan. That is what I don't want to end up doing here. So, want to have an let's have it an open discussion. People share your thoughts. I'll give my pointers, and then we can take this session forward. So, anyone who has 10 years of experience, Ganesh, you were there, right? How have you seen this entire Infosys culture evolve over the years? So actually,
I found your
So prior to Infosys, I worked for a product organization. And 15 years back, 14 years back, I moved to Infosys, which is a service organization. But nevertheless, I worked on automation, tooling, etc. So that means the domain has not changed so much. But coming from the old fashioned VC++, Visual Studio based something, and my team currently doing cloud-based, cursor-based development by coding. So there is a big shift like what we have seen. But nevertheless, I see, uh, yeah, nevertheless, when AI, which was in the nascent stage and now in a very advanced stage now, one thing that I see is developer productivity is very important. And I also saw in the past, there is a wide gap what the engineering students they learn in the college and what the industry expects. For example, they would not have never heard aspects like DevOps, but the moment they enter they hear concepts like DevOps, probably which may not be taught. They may not have learned even Kubernetes as a technology, but now that is the very fundamental thing for platform. So that I have seen between the academic, but nevertheless, saying everyone has to learn fundamentals because sooner the quantum will pick up somewhere in 2034, and all the technologies like AI, security, cloud is essential for everyone. That I believe.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to share their thought? So I think one point which Ganesh does is that, and he mentioned about this term DevOps. So maybe when he would have started around 15 years back, or maybe when I started, we didn't have something as formal as this. Now this has become embedded as a part of the entire developer lifecycle. So just hold on to that thought because there's something which we will cover on this at a later stage. Not on the DevOps as an, I'd say capability or tool, but how this entire market or this entire, I'll say the job culture industry. Let's before I proceed, let me ask you a very question and a very blunt question. How many of you are scared that AI will take the job? Three people. Anyone else? Okay. I think thank you for your honesty, and it's not. Though there are a lot of discussion apprehension, but there has been a lot of similar transformations which has happened, and we will navigate through it. So I think let's move further. But yeah. So I think this is a very easy question. What is the fastest consumer app in history to reach 100 million users? ChatGPT. It took around almost time. Took less than 2 months to reach the 100 million downloads. How many words roughly are used to train large language model? I'm not sure if you're, pardon me if you don't know what this term large language model means, but it is something which is the backbone which is used to train all your frameworks like ChatGPT, your Grok, your Cloud, and everything over there. So, how many words are roughly used to train this? Any guess?
More than a billion.
More than a million, billion. So around hundreds of billions to trillions of words. There are something called very large language models also which have been created. And for reference, humans read around 50 million words in a lifetime. So just see what amount of training does it go. And what percentage of the code on GitHub today is estimated to be AI generated? Mostly it is AI generated? No. I'll give you a very funny anecdote. So normally as a part of augmenting our capability, we hire resources. So we interview and all. So I was interviewing one of the candidates and I gave him a problem statement. And he mentioned that I don't know the answer, but you let me know. You give me time, I'll check on the chat GPT and I'll come back with the answers. Okay. So what I told him that, okay, fine, because I think everyone or each of the organizations have now an approved list of these assistants. But I told him this is not at least you are going to tell it in front of the client, right? Because what client anticipates, what client is expecting, they want that honesty. They want that person to come back with knowledge. So what is happening is that there used to be a lot of, I'll say, focus on the technical know-how, on the technical acumen of coding, the programming languages, and all those things. So all these AI assistants coming up, this is something which is I'm not saying getting completely irrelevant, but then there are ways in which these can act as your assistant. Okay, I think it's the last question. What is the estimated global AI market size by 2030? Not spend too much time, some 1.5 trillion, just because of this, which is going to happen. Now, these are some of those, I'll say, areas where we are leveraging AI. But anyone, before we go into that, anyone wants to think, what is AI? You have been all hearing this term AI, artificial intelligence. What is it? It's a very vast concept, as it. Anyone wants to take a stab, give an answer to that? Anyone, it's this usual common English. AI is artificial intelligence. You have human intelligence, you have a model or machines mimic human intelligence, that becomes your artificial intelligence, right? And it is not something, and maybe we'll see the subsequent slide, it is not something which has started very recently. We have been having AI for years. I think more than 50, 60 years in different capacity, in different potentials, what we had it. So these are some of those typical work what I have done, which are relevant for the area what none of us operate. How it used to be before AI to some limit, and how we are now doing it by taking help of the AI. One of the major things which we do as a part of the entire consulting exercise is the research, where we do the competitor analysis, we do the market research, and it used to take a lot of time to get the amount of data, to create a format of market analysis. You people will read it, not yet SWOT analysis, portals and all those things. You will read it. Now those can be done very easily. You give the right set of prompt, and that becomes in itself is a very, very critical aspect. And you get at least the first level of information, and then you can fine tune it and use it for consumptions. Of course, RFP response is another thing which we extensively do. So I'll not go line by line, but the point what I'm trying to drive is this entire AI has helped to do a lot, or helped to ease a lot of work. The time taken to do it, at least to get that first level of draft and all, is quite helpful. Now, if you look into the humankind, these are some of those major, I'll say, paradigm or technical, not technical, but the transformation which have. Fire in itself is not an invention as such, but just to bring out the point in terms of the entire human kind. The entire human, I'll say the kind ways of living operation changed after the fire was invented. They moved away from hunting, pure hunting. They, in fact, hunting was still there, but cooking, those meats, another thing, agriculture not started. You had wheel somewhere between steam engine was something which happened, and then this entire industrial evolution happened. Prior to that, what people used to do before steam engine was farming, maybe wood carving and all those things. But after steam engine, the entire industrial evolution happened in 17th century, right? Electricity, before internet, there was something called computer, which came. It redefined the complete way of living, and now what we call AI. Right? Now, why AI we are talking so transformation? Because the amount of exposure or the amount of as a penetration what this has is immense. How many of you have a smartphone? I believe everyone. How many of you don't have a smartphone? So you see, what you have in smartphone, you have a lot of applications which are relying on AI at this number. Now, just listen to one point carefully. What has happened after each of these phases between this stage and this stage? Did you have something called factory worker? Did you have something called before industrial revolution, before those machines or factory came? That role got generated, right? After the advent of electricity, the entire production, the entire supply chain, everything actually changed. So what is happening is whenever such large transformations, big transformations, projects or transformations, I'll say pattern is coming up, it is not that it is going to disrupt. Of course, there has to be a sense of fear, then you'll have disruption, but then there are innovations. And the people who innovate and the people who basically ride that wave are the one who are going to reap benefits. I'm sure all of you must be using Microsoft Excel for some calculations and all, right? And you'll be using this very simple feature called pivot table. What it does is it sort of summarizes the raw data which you have in terms of table. You get the sum, you get whatever mean, median, you get your entire whatever average and other things and all. You can do that manually as well, right? You can put an what you call a filters, select the filter, do a sum and all. But what it does, and I'm making a very I'll say basic reference. So similarly, if someone uses these tools, the more you use these tools, the more productive you will be. And I think that is the theme that you're going to hear throughout the day today from all the speakers. You're going to learn in your curriculum. You're going to hear even outside also, is that you have to start using these tools. Of course, there are a bit of ethical, regulatory, responsible considerations, because if those tools are used until there can be disastrous effect. I'll touch very briefly to that as well. But it gives a lot of information, but then it has to be used very responsibly. Now, very briefly, this is how the AI has been. We started with a very basic rule-based engine where you have, if you look into the normal fraud analytics, the entire, work, the entire, I think the practice has evolved. Earlier, it used to be purely rule-based analytics. With the advance of data, with the advance of enhanced computing, the machine learning came, where you learn from the data and you start predicting, you start classifying. People will read a lot about it. Then in 2010s and all, with your entire processing parts and all, as it evolved, you have deep learning. You have neural networks, multi-layered neural networks. You start looking at the images, predict on the images, classify the images. And with each of these advancement, there isn't a lot of, I'll say, practical uses which has the entire supply chain is something which is very new in terms of machine learning, right? Most of the supply chain, they work on the entire planning and they do multiple levels of plannings, which is nothing but at the core, it is mostly regression, what you do with. Deep learning is used everywhere. I think today morning also, if anyone, if you would have, first thing which you will have done is to check your phone after get up, right? And I think almost everyone will have a face on. And I think that is deep learning. It looks at your face, it matches it, might do thumb impression and all those things. So there is a lot of adoption across the industry which happens for all these technologies with AI, agentic AI, and all. Till last year, what we have seen in our company, there was a lot of push on the pilot, on POCs being done. From this way, we are seeing a lot of focus on getting it industrialized to use it for a larger set of consumers. But of course, still, I think it is at at a level where there are a lot of standalone POCs or standalone projects being done, unless until it is integrated in the culture of your organization, which means that it has to be passed top down. The leadership has to make it mandate, and then the employees or the workforce have to start using it. But for your entire, all of these things, the base, there are, sorry, the base is two things. One is you need to have a sound and good quality of data. Because if you don't have right data, you feed in the model, they send that garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have a right quality of data, you're not going to get the right output as well. And the second is investing on your people. If you make, and I think that is one of the biggest challenge which we are hearing of late with our clients, is that we have invested so much on AI, but the amount of usage of AI tools in our firm is very, very limited. People are not leveraging that. We have assistant in terms of the chatbot, we have in terms of, like we have something called proposal engine, where you just give them, it will create a very high level proposal. So, but the employees are not using it. Okay. So that is another thing which we have to invest in. There is I think by an internal EY survey, now for every one amount of investment which you do in AI engineering, $5 of investment needed in data and your workforce productivity upliftment. So that's why it becomes very, very important at that one. Now, when we're talking about AI, and most of the people, what we work, since we come from IT or IT related work, and I'm going to talk about the digital AI. I think all of you must be using AI for ChatGPT or whatever you have for content creation, right? Where you give them a prompt, you get a reply, you tweak it, you modify it, and finally you get an output and you use it. This is extensively being used in, and we saw that GitHub has around 40% of AI generated code, right? So, and there are a lot of, I think, push from the organization to leverage AI for software development, because they get, one is the faster quality, not faster quality, the faster time to market. Then there are some very mundane tasks which you can automate and do it. Of course, it has its sets of pros and cons. I've seen that if people are doing those coding for functionality, greenfield and all, it is helpful for brownfield and all. There's a lot of issues which comes up, and I think it's still getting evolved and all. Entire agentic workforce. So anything where there is a proper SOP, where there is I'll say the proper workflow, the process which is defined. And when there are humans behind the desk, you can always leverage your agentic workflow. So like you will see that there are, in supply chain, there is something called control labs. So what they do is that there are a set of planners who sit, who do that entire logistics planning in terms of like how is my shipment going to flow to my different customers? What is that trucks I need? What is that we need? All these things we are using agentic to do that entire set of planning. But this is what we have been mostly using it. There's another arm which is on the physical layer, where you use for factories, your manufacturing, robotics, and all. Looking for, I was talking about REAN. That is on that part. You'll see a lot of this AI is being used on the smart warehouse. They have those machines which live, you put on the top shelf of the warehouse, things are there. In healthcare and diagnostic, there's a lot of, I think, advancements have made in the AI in healthcare. And when with the, I think with the jump of or with the, I'd say, increase in technology and uses of deep learning, it acted as a big assistant for all those radiologies and all, for all those X-rays, CT scans, MRIs, and all the image what it get. How do you read the image? How do you process the image? Is something which is extensively being used by the radiologist, by your doctor. So while it can act as an, I'll say, doctors use this entire tool to validate their hypothesis in terms of if they're seeing something in terms of in scan or so. But of course, there's a human angle to that, right? And that will talk maybe in the next slide and all. So the point which I'm trying to make it now, AI is not longer for you. If you have looked at the previous slide, whatever was the uses of AI, that was only limited to a niche set of people. That entire be it machine learning or even for the rule-based engineering, that was only being used by a limited set of people, a limited set of, I'll say, workforce. But now AI is embedded into everything. AI is in each of our satellite, and we are using it without even noticing or without even acknowledging that this is something related to AI. Your phone is the biggest example, right? Now, these are some of those, I think, what the leaders are saying. And the point which they are trying to make, everyone is trying to make, is learn how to use AI. Okay. AI is not going to take away the jobs as such of the people, but people who do not learn how to use AI, how to embed AI in their day-to-day, I'll say, operations, day-to-day journey will be left behind. Okay. And there is I tell you, a very funny, I think it's a real life thing which happened. So one of my relatives used to work in post office, and post office also used to have this savings account and all those things. And prior to the advent of this entire computerization and all, this month, March is a very taxing period for those people because of year-end closing or any financial and all. They have to calculate all the interest, they have to approve it in the account so that you get the opening balance for the next year. So every day, of course, you used to work till 10, 11 p.m. this time. You used to get this Namota register. And in the night, with a calculator, you'll be doing all those things manually and all, right? Now, when this entire computerization happened, there were tools, there were ERPs which were created, which were doing this thing in a much better, much efficient, right? Doesn't mean that those people lost their job. You take an example of the banks. When the ATMs were started, there was fear that what is going to happen? The tellers are going to lose their job. The people who sit on the cash counter, because the people will go and they can now withdraw money from ATM at the bill at any time of the day, provided there's money in there. But what it has resulted in, if you look into that, the number of bank branches have actually increased because infrastructure needed to set up a bank branch has reduced drastically. You don't need now 10 counters. You don't need a big infrastructure to set up a branch. You'll see the bank branches being set up with 2 rooms, labs, or so as such also. So learn. Of course, I don't know how many of you follow this. This was a very anthropic research for labor market, right? Where they talked, I think you must have, and all of this into the where they talked primarily about 2 things. One is the theoretical potential. That for each of these fields, what is the impact that AI can create? So for fields like computer and math, for your call centers, for your entire banking and finance, the theoretical percentage is very high. This is from an Anthropic report. This image is taken as is from there. So the penetration is very high for entire office and admin work. The impact that the AI can create is very, very high. But the adoption, the red one which you see, the adoption, what you see is quite limited at this stage. Okay, so this use, I think for computer math, it is around 90%, but the adoption is up to 30% what we have it on. And what the point it is trying to make is, so there was a point we talked there that it doesn't mean that the jobs have reduced. So they say what they have mentioned that the entry level jobs have come down because there's a lot of things which have which can be done with the AI, but effectively there has been a rise in the number of jobs because there are some critical aspects which the human brings in. Now, what are those aspects which a human brings to the table? Anyone wants to take a guess? Anyone want to talk about it? So first of this is your entire emotions, your connections. AI itself has no emotion. Okay, it has no emotions, and a lot of, I think, the work which you end up doing and all, it is not that you can simply do with numbers. You can make the slides and create those reports and all. A lot of these are tracked at a personal rapport level. And that is something which AI will never have it. So that is something which only human will have it. The second thing is in terms of the innovation. AI will give you 5 different options. Yes, you can take this report, this format, this and all. But then it is only human who can basically decide that what do I use it? How do I use it? In what format? In what intent? In what structure do I need to use it? Then there are other things in terms of fairness, in terms of your things that. This is again on from the same topic report. I suggest you people just read it as literature. I think may be not very relevant to you at this stage, but just see how this entire industry, how this entire workforce, and not only IT or BPO or computers or anything. It has talked about all the jobs where you need human, like your plumber, your mason, all those people, the penetration level will be very, very low. The agriculture, critical impact is also very low. The construction, very low, because it is human intensive, even in the developed countries. There are machines and there are the things, but there is a lot of human involvement which is there. These are some of those, I think, areas where AI can be used. I think people would be aware of it. So, healthcare, we talked about this entire, how the radiologists are using it and all. In fact, in Europe, when with this entire growth of deep learning, there was a fear that what the radiologist will do. Machine will do the scanning, machine will do the image scanning, and then give the result, what the radiologist will do. But what the actual result has shown, the number of radiologists who are using these AI tools into the day-to-day operations have increased. Of course, the people who do not learn, do not use these things, they will have a setback. But the people who leverage these AI skills and all are not going to be any sort of benefit, at least in the near future and all. And all these things, what we have been talking till now is your what you call is ANI, artificial narrow intelligence, which is AI for a very specific task and all, right? There is a lot of debate in the industry about AGI, which is your general intelligence. Someone says it will be in next 4 years. Someone says it will take another 15 years. Someone says it will take another 25 years. And what is mostly limited is on AI tools for very specific, or a specific set of tasks, right? That is what is currently, we see the exposure of AI over there. For banking, again, extensively being used for your fraud monitoring, for your anti-money laundering, for your contact centers, when you call the call centers and all, right? Now you'll see a lot of, and that is one of the biggest KPIs which you have it in rankings, that how many calls are you able to handle at an IVR level. That you get all your queries answered, be it to report fraud, or report loss of card, or get your credit limit increased. Such things you can get it done within the machine itself. With the contact center, even routing of the calls to a different set of the right skill reps. There will be a set of reps who will be, I'll say, adept in handling fraud related calls. There will be a set of reps who will be who are adept or who are expert in handling the other set of calls, be it your balance transfer or some failures as such. So it's extensively being used. In software development, we are a part of that cycle. We see it being used extensively. Very, very thing. I think yesterday also I was having a discussion with the client. The client asked us how they have integrated cloud with their Visual Studio. I said that why don't you leverage it and give me a 30 to 40% of reduction in the efforts that eventually cost them. We told them that we have to evaluate and get back to you, but now this is not something which is there. It is in execution, it is being questioned, it is being used in every stage of what you do. But now there are mindsets which we talk about this responsible AI. And this is very, very important. So the point which we want to drive is use AI as your co-pilot, not as your captain. Some people use AI to get the first draft, refine it, and then take it forward. Few people create their first draft, use AI for refinement, and take it forward. There, I read somewhere a couple of days ago, there is a firm called Matt Rowley. Okay, there one of the person, he created an agent, and what he did, he asked the agent to review some segment of code written by some third individual. Review the code. Tell me what is the problem with the code. How can you rectify it? Create a blog out of it and publish it. This was the task given to agent, a multi-steps task with the tools necessary. That is what the agenting is all, right? The agent worked perfectly. It did that analysis. It reviewed the code, told these are the issues, rectified or suggested, published it in the blog. And when it got published as a blog, whatever, either in the company intranet or open internet, more than a software productivity case, it became a case of a personal ego. And the first person who has written that code, he took it so negatively. He took it so negatively that how can someone, and machine is there again, as I told you, there's no emotions and all. So it did not look into that part. So there always has to be a human oversight. That is, wherever we are talking about either GenAI, agentic, or anything, there's a term HITL, human in the loop, is very, very essential. Right? Because if AI doesn't know where to stop and what is that I have to do, what is that can have, and I'll say an alter impact. Okay. The safety and reliability, all these, of course, there are the data set in which you have to train with in terms of either your biasness, in terms of your transparency, in terms of your privacy, your security, and all those things are there. You will see that there are a lot of instances when people have actually gone ahead and pushed the customer or the enterprise data in a forth. These are some things which, on our side also we have to hold back to it. Sure, few of you would have read that news where in Pakistan, a news article was published completely generated by AI, and at the bottom end there was written the prompt that this is generated by AI, feel free to review and all those things, and they published exactly as it is. So it can be that impactful. It can be, I'll say, that much level of the data or the finished data which are going to get into that. Now, another thing which I was talking about what happens when this is an AI and all comes, right? So the overall the workforce adapts itself. Whatever you people are seeing right now in terms of the job, the title and all, maybe in 10 to 15 years down the line, those titles might not even exist. Ganesh was mentioning about DevOps. 20, 25 years ago, there might not even have been a DevOps terminology used in its current sense. 50 years, 60 years ago, whatever, you didn't have an IT software engineer per se job. So popular and all. Of course, with the advent of computer and all, it will be there. So the message which I want to land with you people is that over the period of over your career lifetime, and this is again I read it somewhere, is you people are going to switch careers. What I mean by careers is not jobs, it's careers. So someone who is working as an say finance professional at this stage and is expecting or hoping that I will reach the level of say CFO or something by the time you retire or not. You might end up being the marketing head of the firm. People starting on marketing may switch career to HR. In marketing may end up retiring as a VP supply chain. So don't be adamant on the job title. Learn. Of course, I learned that in your model also learn. But as a human, what we should do is keep your learning quotient running. They're saying that when we were reading, when we were studying in engineering, and even before that, our seniors were taught COBOL. We learned C, C++, Java and all, right? Now I don't know what is being taught in the college and all. I think now it's Python now used to be very prominent. Now maybe the entire white coding and all will be there. And it was talking about the difference in the academia and industry. In academia, and I was giving this feedback to them, my alma mater also, is that one part of my responsibility is on the core data engineering. We don't read anything about this in our curriculum. What is pipeline? What do you mean by, you talk very briefly about data warehouse and all those things. But the academia will also have to evolve. And you people have to keep your learning quotient running. There's a vast amount of information available. Read, unlearn, relearn. That is very, very important. And that is what it is going to differentiate between the humans. A person who has the ability to learn fast and implement fast is the person who is going to grow and make a difference. I don't know what is the format right now, but I was studying it early when we were doing this. In CBSE, there used to be this entire course structure of the evaluation used to be determined on 3 factors: knowledge, skills, and application. Now you will get the knowledge by reading all those things. You will know what ChatGPT can do, you will know what Grok can do, you know what everything you can do, have a knowledge of every possible thing on this. You have to build skill out of it. You'll have to then apply it to the real life use, right? Everyone would have gone through the same set of course. There are few who come out as entrepreneurs. There are few from the same class have come out as someone who's starting something new. Okay. In the terms of AI, if I tell you, so first identify the pattern. Identify the pattern. Learn the pattern and then build the pattern. Anyone who has learned music here would have learned playing a piano or a keyboard on some existing songs, right? And few of those people will create new tunes out of that same keyboard and piano. So first you have to identify the pattern, then you have to learn the pattern, and then only you'll be able to create the pattern. Now creation is something which is very, very important. What we end up doing a lot of people is there's a lot of importance on this planning and learning and all, but execution is some part which we lack. So that is the message I just want you to people is the future of AI is there, but you have to take this as a co-pilot. Now, I've covered in a while my, I'll say, session, but just to summarize, what are some of those skills which will change? But what is that not going to change? And this is what is very, very important for us as an individual. For this, we will have our co-pilots, we will have our, what you call, sarthis and all those things, which will help us. But what is important is this. So in this corridors, in this launch of the campus, especially for the people who are fresh into, I'll say this course, for the people who do not have industry experience, these are some of those things which are going to take you ahead. Again, as per a survey, on 58% of the personal success is only dependent on EQ, your emotional quotient. Okay, of course, the people will need it in your curriculum. So you will have tools, you will have technology to help you in your decision making, in your data analysis. It will give you the input. Now, as what I do right now is, we have a lot of tools. We have things which help me to keep the data. But then, as a human, you have to have this amount, your decision making, your trust, which covers this entire ethical and moral judgment, right? You people would have heard about this term deep fake, right? Using the deep learning technology. There was a video by Jelen, long video created by Jelen, which said that he's surrendering for violent instruction. You will see that there are videos of a prime minister with something. There was I think there's a thing called Grimes, which used to remix the song. So you perform a song, you get it in someone else's voice beat, like they did for Beatles, John Lennon and all. Now, if that song became this, 50% of the revenue goes to brands, 50% goes to brands. So of course there are huge amount of ethical and moral, I'll say, judgment, the moral implications which you have to do by leveraging the AI. I talked about this entire connections, the innovations, the judgment. This becomes very, very important. Very, very leadership and all. You will have a vast amount of tools, and trust every day. In what we say in a normal IT life cycle, in an IT life, the half cycle, I think the people who have read chemistry know there's a term called half-life, right? The half-life of any of the tool is 18 to 24 months. 2024 was 23, 24 was all about GenAI, 25 became huge on agentic AI. Now we are again talking, just being something, we'll have it on all right. There was some, those plugins which was released by Anthropic and the entire IT service provider stocks crashed. Right? Of course, that was a lot of sentiment based and all. So you will have enough tools for this. Learn to use these tools, but at the same time, learn to curate these skills as well, because these are the ones which are actually going to make a difference. Even I will have this tool, you will have this tool, everyone will have these. But what differentiates our growth in the life is mostly around these areas. Okay, so beyond that, the last part. So I think I just want to end up with a discussion with a point that do not just use AI, build with it, experiment, learn, and then you will be able to reap benefits out of it. So with this, I'll end my session. Thank you very much, and thanks for the patient hearing. Thank you.